I'm Mike Uyak. I love to try new things, and I've had culinary adventures all around the world, as well as right at home. I've had really wonderful food, as well as some really horrible food. I'd like to share some of my adventures with you, and we'll see if I have what it takes to fix whatever goes wrong. This is Recipe Redemption. Greetings and salutations, Redeemers, and welcome to today's edition of Recipe Redemption. I know I haven't posted a video in a while, and I've just gotten really busy with work and, uh, you know, other stuff. I have other interests. So all my other hobbies are kind of taking precedence. But I'm getting back into it, and I figure today's an easy one. Straight from the 1960s, it's the prawn-stuffed apple. It looks a little horrific right from the get-go. But if you sort of take apart the recipe, you're taking chopped shrimp and adding it to relish, mayonnaise, some herbs and spices, chopped up dill pickles, that sort of thing, along with the meat that you've carved out of an apple. And then you stuff all this back into the apple, garnish with more shrimp, more prawns, and of course, stuffed olive on a toothpick because it's the 60s. Everything needs to have an olive on it. It doesn't sound like it should be that bad, but I kind of question as to whether or not this is really a worthwhile recipe to serve your family. And we'll get into that in a moment. So let's just make the darn thing and see what happens. This should be pretty quick.
So as I said, this is a fairly simple recipe. Here I've got an apple, which is going to serve as the vehicle for my prawn-stuffed apple. And I've just taken a paring knife and really roughly cored it. I don't have an apple corer, so that's how I did it. And I carved off as much of the useful apple meat off of that core as I could. And I've chopped up some prawns. Add that to the mix, along with a couple tablespoons of mayonnaise, about a tablespoon's worth of tomato paste. I really like these squeeze tubes of tomato paste. It eliminates a lot of waste. You're not opening up a whole can. And some pickle relish. And let's not forget about a few dashes or more of Tabasco, plus some black pepper. And stir to combine. Oh, of course, don't forget a pinch of kosher salt. And now time for assembly. I've got my apple. You can serve this on a bed of leaves, but, lettuce or something, but I'm not going to bother. So, it comes down to just stuffing this mixture into the center of the apple. You don't have to pack it down too tightly. It's just going to squish out the bottom. But you do want to make sure that it's full. You get a full serving of the stuff inside the apple. And you want to leave a little bit of room on the top. So I'm just going to artfully scoop the rest of this mixture around the base. And the reason you leave yourself a little room around the top is you're garnishing with some more of the prawns. I'm leaving out the olive because it really doesn't add anything to the dish. And ta-da! We have our prawn-stuffed apple. Yum!
Well, that was a thing. So, again, I'm not going to subject you to me actually eating the thing, but let me tell you about it. I went a little heavy on the Tabasco. That was my fault. My desire to actually only make one serving of this, coupled with a sketchy grasp of math and the general predilection toward just winging it and not really measuring anything anyway leads me to sometimes overdo it with some things. So a little bit too much Tabasco. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. It was meh. Um, it's a shrimp salad with apple in it, and eh, the two flavors aren't necessarily that bad. The apples lend a little bit of fruitiness, a little bit of sweetness to it, additional sweetness, and on top of the shrimp, if you actually get good sweet shrimp. Um, they don't really clash, but they don't really help each other that much in this application. Um, it is nice to the apple actually does give it a little bit more texture. There's a little bit of a crunch to it if you leave the apple in chunks. But overall, it's just sort of not great. My big complaint is actually the apple you serve it in. Is it intended? The recipe card doesn't say. Is it intended to just be a serving vessel, or are you expected to eat the rest of the apple? Because if you are, once you've spooned the shrimp salad out of it, it's just a mayonnaise stained, slightly spicy in this case, um, slightly fishy apple, which is not great. It's a little off putting. I ate it, but I don't believe in waste, and I ate it, but I don't know that that was the intent. Um, and if it was the intent for it to just be a serving vessel and you're supposed to throw it away, well, I'm kind of frugal. I don't like that at all. So I think if you're going to use the apple in the recipe. So I came up with these. Now, if you're going to make a shrimp salad, make shrimp salad and make a shrimp salad sandwich or just make a salad, whatever. I think that's perfectly fine. And if you want to incorporate apple, throw it into the mix to begin with. So, here's how I made these.
So I took the last of my prawns, chopped them up very roughly, and added a lot of the same ingredients in. The mayonnaise, the relish, and instead of the tomato paste, I'm actually using sun-dried tomatoes that I've chopped up. I think they're going to give a nice sweetness to it. And some seasonings, garlic powder, onion powder, a little paprika, a dash of Old Bay's in there. And we don't want to forget about the Tabasco. I'm going a little lighter this time. And I'm just going to stir to combine. I have these rolls and I've lightly toasted them in the oven. Not so much that they brown, but just so they dry a little bit so that they have a little bit of protection against the wetness of this mixture. And then pile it high. You could also add some greenery to this, a leaf or two of lettuce, but I don't think it's necessary.
So, with any seafood salad sandwich, there's a bit of a delicate balance between the flavor of the seafood itself and the flavor of everything else that you're throwing into it. I think it went a little relish heavy on this. I taste more pickle than I taste the shrimp, which is kind of a shame. But the shrimp's in there. It definitely comes through. Again, the apple adds a little bit of texture, that little bit of crunch, a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of fruitiness. It's not a bad addition. It just comes down to tinkering with the recipe to get the right flavor balance. Honestly, the sun-dried tomatoes kind of get lost in this too. They're in there as sort of an afterthought. So if you go with fresh tomatoes, that might be good too. What ends up happening with this is it sort of creates a remoulade sauce with the spices. the pickles and the mayonnaise together. It makes sort of a remoulade. So we're kind of going in a po' boy direction, but I didn't want to go with fried shrimp. I really wanted a shrimp salad, but we're kind of going in that direction. But it's not bad. Mm. Mm. Yeah, it's actually quite tasty. Now, you could go the low carb route, serve this on top of some greens, some diced tomato, and just have a shrimp salad. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. And if you absolutely want to garnish with some whole shrimp and an olive or three, knock yourself out. But I think there's really no need to gussy up a shrimp salad or a seafood salad. It's good on its own. I think there's no need to stuff it into an apple. You can incorporate the apple into the seafood salad, and it's perfectly delicious. I recommend you try it, and tinker with the proportions that I came up with to suit your tastes. Like I said, I would have probably would the next time I do this go a little lighter on the relish. Everything else is fine. There's not too much mayonnaise. It's just bordering on slightly too soupy. So I might go a little lighter on that, but it's okay. It's still binding everything together without becoming like, a cream shrimp soup. But other than just sort of adjusting the flavors, this is actually quite good. So, give it a try yourself. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you next time here on Recipe Redemption. Thanks for watching.